Thank you everybody for joining the class. Today, our progress is ultimately not good because we're supposed to finish two more chapters, especially Operation Analytics. Operation Analytics begins today. One of the most important components of Operations Analytics is forecasting. Forecasting means how many units the operations manager is going to produce in coming year or coming season. That is forecasting. Forecasting in marketing, forecasting in other fields are also available, but we will only focus on the forecasting by the operations managers. And forecasting is ultimately foundations of operations analytics or beginning chapter of operations analytics. And after finishing this chapter, we are going to learn these issues. Number one is what is forecasting? What is forecasting? Maybe you have got the idea. Forecasting means what is going to produce and how many units the company is going to produce in coming season, coming year. This is forecasting. And we will also be able to explain why forecasts are generally wrong. Forecasts are generally wrong when you are not following the systematic way. Forecasts sometimes are wrong because of absence of elements of good forecast. Then what are the elements of good forecast? The elements of good forecast include, say for example, your forecast would be based on timely data. The data must be reliable. So if you do not have reliable, timely data, your forecast will be wrong. Outline the steps in the forecasting process. When you are going to make a forecast, you have to first set the objectives. What is the purpose of forecast? Is it to buy the raw materials? Is it how many units the company should produce? Is it how many machines the company may require? Is it what would be the projected capacity of the company? So you have to find out the purpose and then follow up of the purpose. So purpose setting is very important for forecasting process. And then summarize forecast errors and use summaries to make decisions. Yes. There are several forecasting techniques and there are some ways of calculating errors. Sometimes you know that mean errors or average errors, mean absolute errors, mean squared errors. We are going to show you how to calculate the forecasting errors. And then we will also describe 4 qualitative forecasting techniques. Qualitative forecasting techniques, not quantitative. There are 2 techniques of forecasting. One is qualitative techniques and another is quantitative techniques. Qualitative means that you will apply your judgment. The previous year's production was 2 million. So coming year's production may be 2 million or 3 million or 4 million. Your judgment will apply. The
Sir,
economic
I can't
condition
hear
was...
anything. কিছু কি শোনা যাচ্ছে? আমি কিছু শুনতে পারছি না।
What about the other students? আপনারা কি শুনতে পান?
Yes,
জি
জি
স্যার,
স্যার,
শোনা
আমি
যাচ্ছে।
Very
শোনা
good.
যাচ্ছে।
ও তাহলে আপনারটাই সমস্যা। You have some problems. So check your internet connection and other support services. So qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative techniques include, say, for example, judgment, sales teams or marketing managers' opinion, and consensus basis technique. It is known as the Delphi technique. We are going to show. And the methods, forecasting methods or techniques may be quantitative. Quantitative number one method of quantitative technique is naive approach. A naive approach means that what was the previous year's forecast? That will be the basis for coming year's forecast, or what was the previous year's actual sales? That would be the sales. And we sometimes use the word sales because how many units the company can sell, the manufacturer, the operations manager will produce such amount of product. So the operations manager will not produce more than the forecasting or forecasted sales. That's why when we use the word sales, it indicates that how many units you are going to produce. Sales and production units should be same. Some adjustments are there. Maybe in your managerial accounting course, we usually teach some techniques. And usually the name is, profit planning. There we develop different types of budgets. Profit planning, also known as master budget. Master budget includes, say, for example, first is sales budget and followed by the other production budget. Then production budget will say how many or how much raw materials do you need. Raw materials budget. Production budget will say about the labor budget. How many hours labor do you need? The production budget will say about the overhead budget. This is known as profit planning, or it is also popularly known as budgeting. Budgeting. So sales and production are related. What I am trying to do or trying to say is that when we use the word sales, it indicates that it is also the production basis, how many units you are going to produce. The other quantitative techniques include moving average, weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, linear trend analysis, trend adjusted exponential smoothing forecast, seasonal relatives, and finally the most progressive technique is regression analysis. So ultimately today we are going to learn forecasting and forecasting techniques. So what is forecasting? Forecasting means statement about the future value of a variable of interest. Here the confusion is that of a variable of interest, what is it? It indicates for a marketing manager, variable is sales. For production manager, variable is number of units produced. For a supply chain manager, amount of raw materials, etc. So that means forecast in general means a statement about the future value of a variable of interest. Variable of interest is clear, is it? Mr. Juhair Mahin Pranto. So what is variable of interest to a operations manager? Variable of interest to a operations manager.
The production cost.
Production cost.
Yes, sir.
So primarily units of production. How many units the company needs to produce? That is variable of interest primarily. Production cost is a concern because the operations manager is concerned for cost, quality, and flexibility, if you can remember the definition. That's why cost is a supplementary issue, and the primary issue is that how many units the company will produce. That is the primary concern of the operations manager. So, operations managers forecasting will be the definitions of operations forecasting will be a statement about the future value of number of units produced. How many units the company will produce. Forecast for group of items are more accurate than some for individual items. This is also very important. Important is that if I say the average age of my class is 25, so forecast for groups of items are more accurate. If I say that the average age of the students of my class is 25, it will be more accurate when I will say that the age of Mr. Pranto is 27 or 25. Isn't it? Because that particular individual items focusing about an individual is less accurate than groups. It is very fundamental concept. That means when you are focusing about the whole company, that is more accurate than when you are focusing about the number of units produced, individual item. Forecast accuracy decreases as the forecasting horizon increases. So this year, our company's production is 200 million. Next year, the production will be around 200 million. But after 10 years, what will happen? Nobody knows. And very difficult to forecast. So accuracy, forecast accuracy decreases as the forecasting time horizon increases. That means after 1 year, your accuracy will be more. After 2 years, the accuracy will decrease. After 3 years, forecast after 5 years, the accuracy will be less than 1 year's accuracy. That means forecasting for coming year is more accurate than forecasting after 5 years. What will happen after 5 years? There are a lot of factors are related. So when you are making forecast, you have to think about these factors. Your interest of variable you have to identify. Then you have to identify whether you are forecasting for a group or you are forecasting for an individual item, and whether you are forecasting for near future or far future. You have to think. And most important is that forecasts are not perfect. Maybe due to 36 July or 5th August, the profit forecast of the businessman has declined because there is no political affiliation. Now they have to work in a free and fair way. Many factories has shut, garments factories especially. Why? Because They have to show their perfections. The bank loan they have taken, when they fail to pay back the bank loan, the bank is making more pressure than the previous political regime, because most of the factories which are shutting down or which has shut down have some affiliation with the previous political government. So forecasts are not perfect because of political reasons, because of economic reasons. Even in the United States, the focus during previous government is not accurate for the current government. There are several factors works there. Biden and Trump is not same. Their economic policy is not same. So forecasts are not perfect. You must have to remember that this is based on several factors, but you cannot say that it is 100% accurate, perfect. And when you are making forecast, you have to have these elements. Elements of a good forecast. What are the elements? Number one is the data or the historical information must be timely. Maybe you are forecasting for 2026. Do you have updated data up to 2025? Then your forecast will be good. Is your data accurate? That means Bangladesh is moving out of LDC country, least developed country by 2026. The data was not accurate because the database or the data that have been used to declare Bangladesh as a developing country from LDC, least developed countries, the database, the information was not accurate because the GDP growth calculated by the previous government was all related with the political motive. So, if the data were accurate, then the graduation from the LDC to developing countries may be smooth, but it is not smooth right this moment because the database was not accurate. So as per the forecast, we were supposed to move to developing club or developing countries club, and we cannot move because of the inaccurate database. Data must be reliable. Can you rely on the data? If you can rely on the data, then you can say that the forecast is also reliable. Should be expressed in meaningful units, and it is better to have writing techniques should be simple to understand and use. So we will in next slide we will try to know about the techniques how we can make forecast. When we are making forecast, we'll use easy techniques, and the techniques should be cost effective. So if you spend a lot for forecasting demand, forecasting production units, then the production will be expensive. You cannot be the cost leader. So these are the elements of good forecast, and these are the techniques. There are two techniques. One is known as the time series technique, and another is known as qualitative or qualitative techniques, and this is quantitative techniques. Qualitative techniques, that means your opinions and judgments. Executive opinions, a small group of upper level, top level managers may meet and collectively develop a forecast. This is very common all over the world. executive opinions, sales force opinions. Members of the sales or customer service staff can be good sources of information due to their direct contact with the customers and may be aware of plans customers may be considering for the future. So sales for those who are involved in selling the product, they have good relationship with the customers or buyers or potential buyers. That's why their opinion is also a very good way of making focus. Then consumer survey. Sometimes you face different type of consumer survey. Consumer survey may be a source of making a forecast. Since consumers ultimately determine the demand, it makes sense to solicit input from them. Consumer surveys typically represent a sample of consumer opinions. Other approaches include, say, for example, a manager may solicit opinions from other managers or staff people or outside experts to help with developing a focus. That means they can also discuss with the different experts, and they can also follow a questionnaire system. Question Questionnaire system. It is known as the Delphi method, or the word also sometimes pronounced Delphi. So Delphi method is an interactive process intended to achieve a consensus. What is Delphi technique? Say, for example, top management, marketing manager, production manager, accounts manager, finance manager, HR manager sit together. Marketing manager may say that the next year's sales will be 200 million. But the HR manager may say that 200 million, this year's sales were 100 million. How it could be 200 million? You have to explain that. So that means there may be counter opinions. So until and unless you reach a consensus, you will continue the discussion, or sometimes you develop questionnaires. So Delphi method is an interactive process. That means when you are saying that 200 million, you are explaining that 200 million may be possible. Maybe CEO of the company may say that no, 200 million is your judgment, but I think it will not be more than 150 million. And why 150 million? Because there are some political reasons, there are some economic problems, there are some raw materials prices. So a lot of issues will come up with your opinions. And until and unless you reach a consensus that we are going to produce 200 million or 100 million next years, so you need to reach a consensus. Then after making a consensus by all the managers, you can say that yes, we are going to produce 100 or 125 100 units. So until and unless reaching a consensus, you will continue your questionnaire, continue your discussion. It is known as the Delphi method. And it was qualitative techniques. And now for forecasting, time series technique. This is ultimately we have said about the features of good forecast. Ultimately, here we are going to relate these features with the quantitative techniques. Data should be timely. Data should be accurate. So data is generating in quantitative techniques. Data should be reliable. Data should be expressed in meaningful units. The data that is available must be in written, and the techniques we'll use must be simple to understand and cost effective. So let's go to the techniques. quantitative techniques. Number one quantitative techniques is naive forecast. Naive forecast means that using a single previous value of a time series as the basis for a forecast. And what is time series? Time series means data according to time. Say, for an example, data in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 sales, 2001 sales, 2002 sales, 2003 sales, 2004 sales, 2005 sales. When you are getting data according to time horizon, it is known as the time series data. It is known as the time series data. In naive approach, use a single previous value of a time series as the basis for a forecast. So single previous value of a time series as the basis for a forecast. The forecast for a time period is equal to the previous time period's value. That means naive approach is that in 2024, sales were 200. So in coming year, in 2025, this sales will be same as the previous year. It is known as the naive approach. No example given. So what is naive approach? Just use the previous year's value. Previous years or previous period's value can be used with a stable time series, seasonal variations, trend. And you are getting the concept of what is trend, what is seasonal variation, summer season sales, and say for example, you are going to forecast coming winter season sales. What will be your basis? If you are going to produce product or forecasting demand for coming winter, what will be your basis? Your basis must be previous winter. So it is seasonal variations. It is also known as the naive approach. Say for example, in previous winter, your production was 1 million. So in coming winter, your production will also be the same as 100 million. It is naive approach. Or in 2024, your sales was 200 units times 3 is 200, and in 2025 your sales forecast is also 200 units. This is time series. So it can be used with time series variations or seasonal variations or trend. You can use several trends. Say for example, this is now there is no economic recession. In 2000, there was economic recession. In 2008, there was another economic recession. So self forecast in 2010 will be affected by the 2008 economic crisis. So what was the trend in 2000? 2000, there was a economic crisis. So sales in 2001 will be equivalent to sales in 2010, because 2001 was after a economic recession trend. Long-term upward or downward movement in data. Long-term means in 2010 there was a recession. In 2000 there was a recession, and 2008 there was another recession. So forecast in 2009 or 10 will be same as forecast in 2001 or 2002. It is trend. And season means winter, summer season. Cycle. Your business may perform sometimes better, may perform sometimes worse or bad. So there is a cycle, business cycle. The cyclical variations you can consider, and that may have some irregular variations. You don't know. You know that the sales in your previous summer, the sales was good, but uh, this summer the sales are not good, and random variations without any reason. Sometimes it varies. So ultimately, the number one technique we use is known as the naive approach. And what is naive approach? Naive approach means just previous periods data will be basis for the or same as the forecast will be same as the previous period. It may be time series period, it may be cyclical period, it may be seasonal period, it may be trend period, it may be other regions. So just use the previous year. Example is forecast in 2024 was 200 million. In 2025, the forecast will be 200 million. Same as the previous period is named. You can also use moving average. What is moving average? Moving average means that you are averaging few years. Here it says that the number of years is n. Moving average for n years. And if you replace n with 3, say for an example, then you will take the average of the previous 3 years. If moving average is 5, you will take the average of the previous 5 years. And the forecastments may be forecast for 2025, T for time. Forecast for 2025, you are going to use 3 years moving average. So average of the previous 3 years will be your basis for making the forecast. Technique that averages a number of the most recent actual values in generating a forecast. So example is given here. What's the example? Compute a 3-period moving average. Maybe you have data for 5 periods, but your management decision is that the next year forecast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years forecast F6. Forecast for the 6th year will be 3-period moving average. So 1, 2, 3. The recent 3 periods average will be your forecast for period 6, 5, 6. Forecast 6. So 43, 3 years, 43, 40, 41. And you have taken 3 divided by 3 equals 41.33. So it is known as the moving average forecast. If actual demand in period 6 turned to be 38, actual, it is in 6, it is 38. The moving average forecast for 7th period would be 38, 38, 41, 41, 40. That means 1, 2, and 6, 3 years.
ভিডিও মানে ভয়েসটা বাফারিং হচ্ছে, বোঝা যাচ্ছে না, কথা ভেঙে ভেঙে আসছে। যে কারণে
আপনাদের কি
ম্যাথটা
অবস্থা,
ক্লিয়ারলি
অন্যদের
বুঝি
কি
নাই।
অবস্থা, অন্যরা বলেন, অন্যরা একটু বলেন তো আসলে কি ওনারটা সমস্যা নাকি আমার এখানে সমস্যা?
না স্যার,
স্যার
আমি ক্লিয়ারলি শুনতে পাচ্ছি, ইটস
ভয়েস
ক্লিয়ার।
ক্লিয়ার
হ্যাঁ,
আছে স্যার।
এখানে আমার এখানে সমস্যা হবে না, কারণ আমি আপনার ওই ওয়াইফাই ইউজ করতেছি না, এমনিতেই মোবাইল ডেটা ইউজ করতেছি। ওই তখন যে চেঞ্জ করতে দেখলেন, এটা আমি জানি যে ওই ওয়াইফাই তে সমস্যা করে। যে কারণে যেহেতু আমি রেগুলার ক্লাস নিই এখানে বসে, আমার একটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্স আছে, কাজে এখান থেকে শুনতে কারো সমস্যা হওয়ার কথা না। এটা আপনাদের হয়তো এখানে নেই, অনেক ইউনিভার্সিটি আছে অনলাইনেই ক্লাস নেয়, অনেক আপনার সেসব ক্লাস এখানে বসে আমি নিই, কাজেই আমার একটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্স আছে এখান থেকে। আমার এই এন্ড থেকে সমস্যা হওয়ার সম্ভাবনা খুবই কম। So check your internet, and if still you have any problem, the lecture is being recorded, you will watch later. And now don't leave the lecture, class. Join here, stay here. All right. So moving average, do you have any confusions about moving average?
হ্যাঁ, আবার একটু রিপিট করলে ভালো হয়। এখন মানে ক্লিয়ার হয়েছে, কিন্তু আগেরটা আমি বুঝতে পারিনি।
Okay. Moving average. Moving average means you are averaging recent periods, and recent period will be decided by your management. How many years average will be used for forecasting coming year? Say for an example, here we have 5 years data. That means 20 up to 2024. Now we are going to make a focus for 2025, period 6. And the company has decided that we'll use moving average. So moving average for 3 years. They have decided they will use moving average, and moving average for 3 years. When we say moving average for 3 years, 3 period moving average, it indicates that most recent 3 years average. So here the most recent 3 years is 2024, 2023, 2022. So 3 years, these 3 years, 43, 40, 41. If you sum up these 3 periods and divide by 3, it will be your forecast, and it is moving average forecast. Forecasting using 3 years moving average. Maybe now the actual sales, if the actual demand in period 6 is 38, that means period 6, 38. It is forecast 41. And actual is 38. So 6, 38. Then the moving average forecast for period 7. 6 is 38. What will be the forecast for period 7? So 38, 40, 41, 38. The 40 plus 41 plus 38 divided by 3. 40, 41 plus 38 divided by 3 will be the forecast for 7 period. 39.67 units, or 40 units you have to produce. And there are some adjustments. For example, some companies produce extra 20%, some companies produce extra 10%. You will add that inventory principles, maybe 20% additional, or it is known as the safety stock. 20% additional units will produce, or 10% safety stock. So forecasting use moving average is clear, is it, Mr. Munkasir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then next, weighted moving average. So moving average, if moving average is clear, then why we'll use weighted moving average? Or weighted moving average means that we will give weights. So for example, here we'll use 3 years moving average, then we will give weights. Say for example, we will give 50% weight here, 20% weight here, 30% weight here. That means 50 plus 20 plus 30 equals 100%. Weight always will be 1 or 100%. So, why we will give weight? We will give weight because we know that, say for example, the
Can you
previous
repeat
year,
again about the 100%?
100%. Weight is always 100%. 1, 50%, 20%, 30% is 100%, isn't it? Or 60%, 20%, 20%. 60 plus 20 plus 20 equals 100. All right. So then why I will give 60% here and 20% here and 20% here? Because we know that period 5 was very normal year. So there is a chance, more chance, 60% chance that the coming year will be a normal year. And we are giving 20% for the previous year. We know that there were a election period. Say for example, because of election, the sales were affected. So we are not going to give more importance on the period 4. Similarly, there was political turmoil. Pre-election year was 20, period 3. So we will also give less importance. Weight means giving importance. So whether you will give more importance on period 5 or period 3 or period 2 or 4. It depends on the previous year's economic condition, social condition, political condition, and based on that, you will give weight. Say for example, here it says, compute a weighted average forecast using a weight of 40 for the most recent period. So you will give more importance on this year, 40. 0.3 for the next. So for period 4, you will give importance 30%. 0.3 means 30%. And 20 for the next. 20% for this period. And 10 for the next. 10 for this year. So if the actual demand for 6 is 39, here this 6-year period is 39. Oh, next for next, what is the weighted average forecast for A? For A, period 6, you are giving 10% weight, and it is 4 years weighted moving average. How many years? 4 years. How we understand that 4 years? Because 4 years weights are given here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for 5th year, most recent year, 40%. So 5th year, 40. The 5th year, which one is 5th? This one. 41 is the 5th year. 41. We are giving 40% importance. 40% weight for the most recent period. Then next recent period is 40. We are giving 30% weight. 30% weight. Next recent year is period 3, 43, 20% weight. Next recent year is this one, 40, and weight is 10%, 10%. So 10%, 20%, 40, 30%, 40% equals 100%, isn't it? 40 plus 30, 70 plus 20, 90 plus 10, 100%. So, although nothing is explained that how many years weighted average we are using, but as the weights for 4 years are given, so this indicates that the moving average we are calculating for 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So if we multiply by 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, the actual forecast for period 6 will be 41. Now the company said that if the actual demand for period 6 here, period 6 is 39, what will be the forecast for the 7th period? The weight will be same. 40% for the most recent year. So the most recent year is period 6, 6, 6, and it is 39. 39 multiplied by 40%. 39 multiplied by 40%. Then 41 multiplied by 30%. 30%. Then 40 multiplied by 20%. Then 43, this 43 multiplied by 10%. And the weighted average forecast for period 7 will be 42.2 units. So demand for period 6 based on this weight will be 41. For period 7, in that case, period 6 is 39. Will be 40.2 units. Is it clear what is weighted moving average?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I didn't get it properly because my internet was very jammed. It was not really clear for me. The
So
mathematical function.
for the others, Oliver got it.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
This is it.
Okay, thank you. So as you have some problem, just we are giving a short revision. Short revision is that we are giving weight to periods, and weight ultimately here the weight indicates the importance on the previous periods. The previous period, say for an example, in Bangladesh, if you are going to make a forecast for 2026, then will you give more importance on 2025? No, because the year is a politically devastating year. So the importance you will give 10% here. And the previous regime, maybe previous regime was also not fair. So you will give importance, less importance, 10%. And then the year before the previous period was fair. So you will give importance here 60%. 10%, 10%, 60%, 80%. And 20% for the year before the third year. So 4 years moving average you are going to calculate. 10%, 10% of 41, 10% of 40, 60, isn't it? 60%. 60% of 43 and 60, 70, 80, 20% of 40. 20%, 60%, 10%, 10%. So you are giving importance based on the economic condition, political condition of your country. So these weights ultimately indicate importance. And after giving importance, you are calculating average. And when you are taking 10%, taking 10%, taking 60%, taking 20%, that means you are just converting it into 100%. It is automatically averages. You do not need to divide by 4 because you are not taking full figure. You are taking 10%, 10%, 40%, and 20%. So you do not need to divide by anything. Just you are taking a certain percent, 10%, 10%, 20%, 60%, 80% plus 20%. So 4 years moving average, ultimately just you are taking certain amount of the whole figure. So you do not need to divide it by 4. But in previous case, in moving average, because there was no weight, you have taken full figure, 43, 40, 41. Then you have to average. When you are taking the full figure, you have to take the average. And 41 is your forecast. But here you do not need to divide by any figure because you are taking 20%, 30%, 40%, and the total amount of weight will always be equal to 100%. Isn't it? 40%, 30%, 70% plus 20%, 90% plus 10% is 100%. Weight is always 100%. And exponential smoothing. So, how many methods we have or techniques we have already discussed? We have discussed several techniques. These several techniques includes number 1 is qualitative techniques. Qualitative techniques, your judgment, top management judgments, Salesforce opinions, consumer survey. These are the Delphi method. These are the qualitative techniques. And the second category is quantitative, based on data. Quantitative means based on data, time series data. Number 1 was NAVE. NAVE means just the focus for period 6 will be just previous period, 41. So in 6, the focus will also be 41. NAVE approach. Then moving average, average of few years, 3 years moving average. Then all years will not have equal importance because of political, economic, social crisis. So you will give importance. Which year is most normal will get most importance. And the other years will get receive less importance. This importance means weight. Here it says that the 4th year is most important, most normal, no political chaos, no social crisis, no economic crisis. So this year is most normal. We are taking 40% of this year, 30% of the previous year, 20% of the year before the previous year, and 10% of the previous period. Total 100%. It is known as the moving average. And then the next method is exponential smoothing. What is exponential smoothing? Exponential smoothing is that a weighted averaging method. This is also weighted average method. That is based on the previous forecast plus a percentage of the forecast error. This is forecast error. You have to identify forecast error. What is forecast error? Say for an example, in 2024, your forecast was 60 units, but actually you sold. So forecast was 60, actually you sold 50. So what is the error? 10 is error. Are you getting? That means the difference between actual and forecast. You made a forecast that in 2025 the sales will be 100, but actually the sales was 90. So there was a 10 units error. So whether you will give importance of this error or not. Say for an example, the management has decided that the error has some importance because the forecast was not good. So the error that has made because of our poor forecast. So we'll give more importance on the error. We'll consider 20% of the error. So we'll add 20% of the error. Forecast minus actual is the error, and we'll take 20%. This is known as the smoothing constant, alpha. Is smoothing constant, actual minus forecast. Actual in 2024 was 100. Forecast in 2024 was 110. So there is a error, 10 units error. And the management has decided that the management will consider 20% of the error. 20% means 2. So forecast plus 2. Previous T minus 1 means previous year's forecast plus 20% of the error will be considered. It is known as the smoothing constant. Smoothing constant. The smoothing constant is also the management's decision whether they will take consideration of the error or not. So this is the error, difference between actual and forecast. Error. Are you getting the point? What is error? And then you will give importance whether you will consider error or not, or what percentage of the error you will consider. Example. So the smoothing constant alpha represents a percentage of the forecast error. Represent a percentage of the, so 20% of the error you are going to consider. This is alpha. Its new forecast is equal to the previous forecast plus a percentage of the previous error. Previous forecast plus percentage of the previous error. For example, suppose the previous forecast was 42 units. Actual demand was 40. So, and alpha is 10. So, error is 2 units, forecast and actual. Actual was 40 minus forecast was 42. So, minus 2. And you are considering 10% of the error. All right, minus 2, 10%. Minus 0.20. So, 42 plus minus 0.20 is 41.8. The new forecast would be computed as, so this forecast is previous year's forecast, 42. Previous year's forecast, 42. Plus, you are taking consideration of the error. So 40 units was actual, 40 minus previous forecast, and you are considering 10% error. The smoothing constant is 10%. So 10% of the error, 40 minus 2, minus 10% of minus 2. This is minus 2. 40 minus 42 is minus 2. So 10% of minus 2. is added with the previous forecast 42. Now, if the actual demand turns out to be 43, so it was actual demand was 40. So if it is 43 and the previous if this year's forecast is 41, and for this year the actual demand was 43, what will be the next forecast? So 41.8 plus 10% of the smoothing constant, 10%. 43 is actual, 43 minus forecast was 41.8. So 43 minus 41.8, 10%. So the forecast for the coming year 2025, 2026 will be 41.92. So is there any confusion over the exponential smoothing technique of forecasting? This is ultimately operation analytics. And you can watch a video. Say for an example, Coursera is a free course offering, or free or sometimes paid. Some courses are free. So operation analytics is a free course. You can join the course. And I have joined the course, and it is Pennsylvania University's Wheaton Business School. So you can watch several videos. Ultimately, operation analytics discusses about this chapter. That means forecasting techniques. They discuss about the naive techniques. They discuss about the exponential smoothing. They discuss about the time series analysis. They discuss about the moving average, weighted moving average. These are ultimately the techniques of quantitative forecasting techniques. So do you have any confusion over exponential smoothing? Mr. Fahim, are you with me?
No, sir.
And Bobby, Miss Bobby,
Yes, sir.
Miss Anika.
Yes, sir.
So no problem. Okay, thanks. Then we are moving to next technique. And next technique. Before going to next technique, we are quantifying the error. Whether we have error in our technique or not, and which method. Why you will calculate the error? You will calculate the error to choose the best method for forecasting in coming year. The method which will have more error, you will avoid that technique. The method which will have less error, that you will use for coming years forecasting technique. So this is ultimately error calculation means that you are choosing the right method of forecasting. So error means difference between the actual value and the value that was predicted for a given period. And you actual minus forecast, actual minus forecast, actual minus forecast, everything is same. Actual minus forecast, actual minus forecast, actual minus forecast. So there are three methods, and you can use any method, or as a master's student, you need to know the error calculation techniques, because operation analytics and also in future business analytics, this will be all based on computer analysis. Computer analysis, if you press computer, this type of mathematics will be done by them. But you have to understand what is MAD. Mean absolute deviation. MSC, mean squared error. And MAP, mean absolute percent error. That means here you are going to calculate the percentage. So to calculate something, some percentage, say like the actual was 20 minus 24. So minus 4 divided by 20. Then it will be converted into percentage. When you are dividing by the actual figure, it is going to be a percentage. And percentage will be divided by n number. Then per unit. Then the error will be expressed in per unit error. 2% error. 1% error. And it may be 40 minus 44 minus 4 divided, and when we use this straight line, or it is known as the absolute value, then 40 minus 44 is minus 4. We do not consider minus, it is 4. When we say 44 minus 44 equals 0, 45 minus 44 1 plus 1. But when we say 45 minus 46 minus 1 is also 1. So we will not consider the sign divided by n. Then we will get the absolute error. Because why we do not consider the sign? Because something will be below, something will be above. So on average, you will get the exact figure, exact deviations. And when you put the square, this is mean square error. So again, when you are considering square, then this sign is ignored. 44 minus 48 is minus 4. Minus 4 means 16, isn't it? 16, and minus sign is becoming plus sign. So sign is being ignored when you are squaring the figure, and in that case you will divide it by n minus 1. You will consider 1 less than the actual amount of data. Actual amount of data, n minus 1. Then you will get the results like MAD. Almost MAD and MSc, the results will be same. And it will be different because it will be expressed in percentage. So when you are expressing it in percentage, there will have some deviations, because 2% and 3 or 4 is not same. Just actual minus focus divided by actual, and when you are taking the differences, this is also absolute. This mean absolute percent error, MAP. So MAD weights all errors evenly. MSc weights errors according to their squared values. MAP weights errors according to the relative error percentage. So here the errors are calculated. Here it is MAD under naive approach. Here there is a 11 period, and the actual demand is given here, and these are the forecasts. Forecast according to naive approach, forecast according to 2-year moving average, forecast according to exponential smoothing. And the errors are in naive approach. Error is mean absolute deviation is 3.11, 2.33, 2.5. So if we consider MAD, then 2 years moving average is giving better results and less error, 2.33. And when we are calculating MSE, mean squared error, then the exponential smoothing is giving less error. When we are using percentage, then 5.64. This one, is it? 2-period moving average is giving better results. So here, 2-period moving average is better than the other methods because this under MAD approach and also under MAP approach, both are showing less error under 2-period moving average. 2.33 is less than 2.5, less than 3.11. 5.64 is less than 7.49, less than 5.98. So the under this MAD and MAP approach, 2-period moving average is giving less error. So in our coming forecasting technique, we will use 2-year moving average. So can you calculate the error now? Do you have paper and pencil with you, paper and pen? Do you have?
Yes, sir.
So can you calculate?
আর এখানে
Sana,
অ্যাকচুয়ালটা ধরবো না।
actual, this is actual. This figure is actual for all, and this is focused for naive
হ্যাঁ,
approach. This is focused for 2-period. This is focused for
ডিমান্ডের লাইনটাই হলো
exponential smoothing. Sorry,
স্যার ডিমান্ড যে লাইনটা সেটা অ্যাকচুয়াল।
demand is actual. Yes, right. So here from 2, because there is no forecasted figure for this year. That's why you start from here. 40 minus 42 plus 43 minus 40 plus 40 minus 43 plus 41 minus 40 plus 39 minus 41. So error is given. Oh yes, error is given already, isn't it?
এখানে তো সাম অফ বলছে, তাহলে কি আমরা প্রত্যেকটা একটা একটা করে করব না ফুল সামটা নিয়ে
So
তারপর
when you are absolute error, when you are calculating MAD, mean absolute deviation, that means this figure 2 minus 2 also 2, 3 is 3, minus 3 is 3. So sum of these figures. So go back here. When you are using
এখানে সাম অফ
absolute,
বলছে।
isn't it? So here minus 2 is also 2. 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 7 plus 2 plus 1 plus 7 plus 2 equals how much? Divided by 10. How much here? Sum.
স্যার এখানে কি ইয়ার 11 ইয়ার আছে, তাহলে আমরা 10 কেন নিব?
Because we haven't considered this years because forecast begins from period 2.
ওকে,
5, 8, 9, 11, 11 and 7 is 18, 20, 21, 21 plus 7 is 28 plus 2 is
30 স্যার,
30.
30
30 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 30 is 3. Isn't it? So
Yes,
if it is
sir.
30 divided by 30 divided by 10.
স্যার 86 মানে তো রেজাল্টে
3.
3.11 দেওয়া।
So there is an error here. When we are using this technique, there is an error. It will be 3, or some points are not shown here. All right, maybe these are calculated in computer. All right, sometimes 2.1 to 3.2 4 point, but the actual 40 minus 2, 43 minus 3. So here there is an error. All right, the results will be here 3.
পয়েন্টের
And
পরেরটা ইম্পর্টেন্ট দিব, তাই তো?
3, and then the moving average 2 plus 1.5. Here, and here the n is not 10 because the forecast in 2 years moving average starts after 2 years. The period is 9. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Maybe this is all right, 2.33. Isn't it? So are you trying all? Mr. Munkasir, are you trying?
Yes, sir. But here my internet is going and down. That's why some of the
Miss Anika, Miss
we can't.
Anika.
Yes, sir.
So
But sir,
what is
could
the
you please, sir,
what
I would need the formula slide.
formula is just average. So mean absolute, we are just trying MAD, mean absolute error, deviation. So deviation is 2, absolute figure is 2,
Okay,
deviation is 1.5. That means as it carries minus, we will not consider minus. It carries minus, we will not consider minus because we are considering absolute error, isn't it? We are not considering the sign.
yes, sir.
So
Sir,
some
I'm
of these
having
figures.
problem with the sound.
So some of these figures 2, 1.5, 0.5, 1.5, 6, 1.5, 0, 6.5, 1.5. And the sum is around 21.
স্যার এখানে তো
Bobby.
ইয়ার 9 নিব, তাই তো? জি স্যার,
9 years.
রেজাল্ট ঠিক
9.
আছে।
Just to count. N means counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
জি
8,
স্যার,
9.
এটাই
So
2.33 আসছে
2.33.
স্যার।
So
জি
this
স্যার।
is how you will calculate the error. All right.
জি স্যার।
And the other approach will also follow the same system. So please try it at home and in the classroom setting. And which method is better? The method that will give you less error is the better method. All right. The lowest MAD is, if lowest MAD is the criteria, the 2-period moving average has the greatest accuracy. If MSC is the criteria, exponential smoothing works best because in MSC, exponential smoothing is giving less error. 8.73 is less than other two methods, naive and moving average. And if MAP, mean absolute percent error, is the criteria, then this two-period moving average is better. And if we consider all the three factors, then we will say that two-period moving average is better because this period showing less error, 2.33 and 5.65 or 64, than the other methods. So in our coming year, the company will use two-period moving average. All right. And maybe you can do it. Everybody try. Focus based on averages. Given the following data, period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number of complaints 60, 65, 55, 58, 64. Prepare a forecast for period 6 using each of the following approaches. Naive approach. Naive approach, what will be the forecast under naive approach? Miss Mo.
Yes, sir.
So the appropriate, what will be the forecast under naive approach? Sixth period, what will be the forecast in period 6 under naive approach?
Sir, it
So,
would be the sum of all the complaints divided by the number of period. That's 5. 60 plus 65 plus
but
55
it is
plus.
not average. It is not average. It is naive approach. Naive approach indicates that just previous periods figure will be the coming year's forecast. So period 6 forecast will be 64 under
Okay, sir.
naive approach. All right, Mr. Asif.
Yes, sir.
So what will be the forecast in period 6 under A, the appropriate naive approach? What will be the forecast in period 6? What were you doing?
Sir, sir, I'm calculating.
So what are you calculating? The sound seems that you're watching television or playing games.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Muhammad, what's the name? Shohak.
Yes, sir.
So under naive approach, what is the forecasted value? How many complaints you are going to receive in period 6 under naive approach?
Naive approach.
These are the problems of online lectures, online classes.
Sir, is it going to be 64? Because we will only consider the previous year's data.
Data.
So as of
So
period 5,
even you fail to capture this point. Shame. This is very shame. He is not paying any attention to the classroom. Mr. Asif and Mr. Shok, same thing. Just the previous period's forecast is the or previous period's demand or complaint is the next period's complaint. So in 6th period, the complaint will be 64. We can forecast if you are using naive approach. Even if I'm explaining now, if I can ask the same question, they will somebody will not be able to answer because they're doing something else. That's why I have recommended to switch the BD one. Then the B, a 3-period moving average. Who can tell me what will be the number of complaints in period 6 using 3-period moving average? No.
5.
Why 55?
Sir, 59. Sir, 59.
65.
60.
Why 55? 55
Sir,
plus
it will
58,
9.
50.
59.
So it is average of this 3 period.
Yes,
55,
sir. With 3
58, 64. And it is
Divided by 3. So it's
divided by 3.
134.33.
Yes, sir. 59 আসে তো।
55
59.
plus 58 plus 64 divided by 3 is 59.
Yes, sir.
জি
59.
স্যার।
So 3-period moving average is 59. Now,
59.
a weighted average using weights 50% here, 30% here, and 20% here. What is the focus for number of complaints in period 6 using 50, 30, and 20? Can you
5 into
64
50.
multiplied by 50% plus
33.33. 33.33.
this is 32, isn't it? Plus 30% of 58. 58, 30%. 17.4. And 55. 20% of 55. So 20% means 11 plus 17 point plus 60 for 32. What's the forecast? So weighted average using weights of 50, 50% of 64. What is the figure?
Wait.
32. Isn't it? What's the forecast under approach
জি
3?
স্যার, টোটাল 60.4 আসে।
Yes, you're right. So Anika, what's your answer?
Sir, I'm calculating.
So most recent 64, it will carry 50% weight, and
32.
next recent 58, it will carry 30% weight
70.4.
plus
17.4 plus
55 period 3 will carry 20% weight
11.
11. So total is
60.4.
60.4. Good. Now exponential smoothing with a smoothing constant of 40. So smoothing constant is here 40. So here there will be a little tricks. However, can you tell me what will be the next period's forecast 6?
59.
So 64 plus 40% of the 40% of the error maybe we don't know what is the forecast in period 1? Because this is actual, isn't it? 60 is the actual complaint. That's why what you have to do, you have to begin from period 2. What is the forecast in period 2? What is the forecast in period 3? What is the forecast in period 4? Because this is actual. So you also need to know the forecast for period 5. Actual was 64. So however, if we think that it is the actual and it was the forecast, it is the actual and it is the forecast, it is the actual and it is the forecast, it is the actual, it is the forecast, then what will be the common sense? Common sense say that the forecast is 64, forecast plus 10% of the error. So maybe we can, for the moment, actually I'm showing, for the moment, if we think that it is forecast and it is actual, then actual minus forecast is, the difference is minus 6. Is it? What is the error?
Yes, sir. 58 minus 64, 6.
6. So you will take consideration 40% of the error. 40% of the error. So
That's
error
40%
was
of
6. Error was 6. 40% is how much? 6, 40%.
Sir, 2.4.
So 2.4 plus 64 equals 2.4 plus 64 equals what?
66.4.
66.4 is your forecast under exponential smoothing. That means you are taking consideration 40% of the error. Error was 58 minus 64. But actually, when we will do it, we have to calculate the forecast because these are the actual figures. All are actual figures. But you need what? Forecasted figures. That's why what you have to do, we're thinking that 60 is the next period's forecast. So when you are thinking that 60 is the next period's forecast, then error is 65 minus 60. Actual is 60, forecast is 65. So actually 65 and forecast is 60. So actual minus forecast. You are taking consideration of the 40% of the error. Are you getting? Then the next period's forecast is 62, 62. Getting? So you are making forecast because you do not know the actual forecast figure. Here all are actual figures. You don't know the forecast figures. First year you assume that 60 is the forecast for the next period. 60 is the forecast for the next period. And the way you have calculated here, you consider that this is the forecast plus error 58 minus 64 and it was 66.4. That is also right. That is also right. You can say that I suppose 64 is the forecast. In that case, you will make the note. Here, the company or this book makes a note that the previous value of the series is used as the starting forecast. So previous value 60 is considered as the starting forecast for period 2. So error is 65 minus 60. Next period 55 minus 62. Next period 55 minus 62, 59. So forecast is 59. Next period 58 minus 59. 58 minus 59. Next period 60 is the forecast. Actual is what? 64. So 64 minus 60. 64 minus forecast, sorry. 64 minus forecast, 58 plus 0.72, and this year's forecast was 58. Previous year forecast plus smoothing constant of the error. 64 minus 58.72 was the error. That means 64 minus 58.72 equals what? 64 minus 58.72. 58.72 is 5.28. 40% of 5.28 multiplied by 40% is 2.11. So 58 previous year's forecast plus the error.
Sir, actually I cannot hear you again. Sound problem হচ্ছে.
So what about the others? Anika, have you got it?
Yes, sir, I got it.
So that means the system is that you have to use previous year's forecast 58.72 plus error of the previous period, and that will be the 60.83. 60.83 is your period 6 forecast.
স্যার
So
এক্সামে কি আমরা এইভাবে করব, মানে এইখানে যেভাবে ম্যাথসটা দেওয়া?
anyway, the previous way is also good. So in that case, you have to make note that you are going to consider 64 as the forecast. But
Forecast for
here
period 6.
the period 6. Here the assumption is that you are considering 60 period 1's actual figure. That means naive approach. You can say that using naive approach, we focus for the second two. Is it a naive approach?
Yes, sir.
So better to follow this technique, because the technique I have said is not written there in the book. That's why you can use this approach, because you can have some practice. Have you got it? How to calculate,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
মানে
sir.
একটা রেজাল্ট, মানে রেজাল্ট গুলো একটা আরেকটার উপর ডিপেন্ডেন্ট হবে।
Yes, because you don't know the focus. These are the actual figures. Number of complaints is actual. But in our smoothing constant or the exponential smoothing technique, we need to add forecast plus error, percent of the error. So if you do not know the forecast, then what will be the basis? That's why we are calculating forecast for every year, and then the previous forecast plus the error. Error means the difference between actual and forecast. Actual is 64, and 58 is the forecast. So forecasting error was 6, around 5 point something, isn't it? So we are taking 40% of the error, because this 40% is given there. We'll use a smoothing constant of 40. 40% means that we'll consider 40% of the previous period's error. This is how you can calculate the forecast, or you can focus the next period's production requirements, how many units you are going to produce. And maybe if you do agree with me, then the next part of the chapter, we can finish it
স্যার আজকে
today.
তো টাইম হবে স্যার?
Time, maybe we can take 30 minutes more time today. Can we? What do you think? Because
I
we are
have no problem.
lacking behind. We have many chapters to cover. We have 3 lectures. First 3 lectures was repeated. That's the problem, because we are far behind from the total contents of the course. So that's why I'm interested to finish
Sir,
chapter.
অনেক টাইম ধরে I cannot hear anything. কোনো সাউন্ডই ক্লিয়ারলি শোনা যাচ্ছে না। I don't know কি প্রবলেম হয়েছে। আমার অ্যাটেন্ডেন্সটা কি স্যার দেওয়া হয়েছিল?
আপনার নাম কি? Sana, are you Sana? Or what's your name? Or Bobby? Who's talking now?
স্যার ওর নাম সানা। ও আসলে মানে অনেকক্ষণ ধরে বলছিল যে ওর একটু ইয়াতে
Acha.
প্রবলেম হচ্ছে
He,
সাউন্ড।
he attendance is done, because when I did that, I saw her name here. That's why she is present today. In attendance system, she is present. So even if some of you do not hear me clearly, the recorded lectures will help you to understand. So we will give you the recorded lecture. And today, maybe as our time is going out, that's why it's better not to continue more here, because Ramadan, and you are also, some of you were first fasting. That may be a problem, but in our coming lecture, we'll discuss about regression analysis. A little bit tricky, that's why it's better not to discuss today, all right? This regression analysis used in computer is operations analytics as the basis for making focused. And usually in regression analysis, we use data for long period of time. Say for example, we are taking 20 years data, 30 years data, 50 years data to make a forecast. And when you are taking timely, accurate data for many years, the results will be more accurate. So this forecasting technique based on many years data will help you to make a better forecast. So we are going to discuss more details about linear regression or forecasting using a linear technique in our coming lecture. So as some of you are complaining, and also there is a systematic requirements to continue and 2 hours lecture. That's why we are not discussing any more today. Do you have any questions?
Sir, when will we get the record? Because the soon we get it, it will be really good for us.
Maybe within 15 minutes, 15 minutes, you are going to get the recorded lecture.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Also,
thank you.
maybe the same lecture is delivered at NSU. It is available in my YouTube channel. Already the lecture is there. However, the lecture with you is also recorded. I'll give the same lecture to you, all right? Because the same lecture was given to the NSU students, and that is also given in online. The record is there.
ওকে স্যার।
So, if you do not have any more questions, we are going to end our session.
Sir, I joined a little late today. I think I missed my attendance. Is it possible to give the attendance now?
So, what is naive approach?
Sir, I have no idea. I joined very late. I was stuck in the traffic and I didn't have any network. I actually joined like an hour ago and I only heard the mathematical terms that you were using. So
So
it was
what
difficult
is
for
a
me to
smoothing
understand.
constant? What is a smoothing constant?
I have no idea, sir.
So
I
you
don't
are
know what
absent
we were
today.
talking about. Okay, but
And
just one issue, sir. I don't really have a lot of presence in this class. If you don't give me the attendance today, I don't know if I will be able to continue this course. It might get withdrawn. So
so are you a professional? Why
yes,
don't you
sir.
join the
I'm
lectures?
doing a job. Sir, I have actually some personal issues going on. আমার বাসায় কিছু incidents হয়েছে. My chacha passed away and then my mom had an accident. So I was busy with everything. So I had to take care of them at home. The
Yeah,
only reason I could join today is because it was online. I'm still with my mom because she can't actually do anything with her broken leg. So,
so try to join the coming lecture on time. All right.
of course, sir, I will try my best.